Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So good to see you today. Today we're going to be diving into the Old Elk Cigar Cut bottle, which was released this year. It's sort of Old Elk's attempt to get into that cigar batch, that cigar blend, kind of a theme that's been going around. It's very popular. You know, Joseph Magnus has been crushing it in that department. We've seen distilleries like Starlight jumping on board and doing their cigar batch with the Brazilian Ambarana finish, stuff like that. So it's kind of like an ongoing theme, right? And kind of the idea is that you're getting these dark, rich flavors that would pair well with a cigar. And I may not be a huge cigar junkie, but I do appreciate those deeper, darker, richer, robust, bold flavors out of whiskeys. And so excited to dive in and see what they're bringing to the table today. Thank you so much to my buddy Matt who sent me a sample of this, because I just don't get stuff like that in Michigan. It's just Michigan laws basically make it really hard for distillers who are out of state to get their more select products into the state, because Michigan law is really designed in such a way that they want you to be buying from local distilleries. And while we do have some phenomenal distilleries here in Michigan that are making great reputations for themselves and putting some great products on the shelf, it does make it a challenge for bourbon collectors like me who want to experience what other people are bringing to the table as well. So thank you to those of you who help fund, via the Patreon, me being able to pick up bottles on the secondary that are a little bit pricier, a little bit marked up, or those of you who send me bottles and samples directly. Really appreciate your help and support so that I can try these things, taste them, test them, get reviews out on them. Really appreciate you. So let's dive into this. So real quick, before we open it up, I should tell you a little bit about their product and what they're doing that may be a little bit different, what sets them apart. So with Old Elk, their cigar cut, what they're doing is they're taking their high malt bourbon, aging it at least 6 years, and then after those 6 years, they're then finishing it in a variety of different casks. And there's 4 different kinds of casks that they're finishing this bourbon in. You've got sherry, port, Armagnac, and cognac. So a lot of wine finished products like that, it's very common to do with, Scotch, where they're finishing in sherry casks and port casks and Madeira and all those things. So it's certainly nothing new, but then taking a high malt bourbon instead, and then trying to grab some of those flavors that were left behind in the barrel from the sherry, the port, the Madeira, whatever it may be. It could lend some really interesting flavor profiles to your bourbon. So again, for them, it's sherry, port, Armagnac, cognac. And they're very transparent. They say right there on the bottle how long that secondary finishing process was. This is after the 6 years that the bourbon was initially aged. It then goes into these barrels. So I think the sherry is the longest finish. I think it's like a 1.5 year, according to the bottle. It says it right there on the back. So the sherry is 1.5 years in the finish. Then you've got the Armagnac is 1.25 years in the finish. And then the port and the cognac, those deep, dark, richer flavors, shorter period, so 3 to 8 months. The proof on this is 110.6. The price is $140 MSRP. So if you're getting it at MSRP, congratulations. If not, you're looking at probably closer to $200 on a secondary market. And I believe that this is going to be a release that's not like once a year. It's sort of like it's one release, initial release in the year, and then they kind of slowly release those bottles over time. So it's the same batch, but a drawn-out release instead of a one-date dump. So let's crack it open. Let's see if it's got what it takes to hang in this category of growing popularity, the cigar batches. Historically, I do like Old Elk products. Their wheated bourbon especially, very good. So this is like the love child of Greg Metz, who was with Seagram's for like, what, a couple of decades? Yeah, a quick search says he spent almost 40 years there at Seagram's. So the Seagram way, they should know a thing or two about blending, yeah? To get the correct flavor profile they're after. Okay, let's have a looky here. Just rolling it over in the glass, I'm appreciating the color, which is probably, all the color's barrel influence, obviously. But if it's just a charred oak barrel versus a barrel that had port, cognac, dark spirits, then you could end up with a much darker color. And I'm definitely appreciating this deep, dark, leathery color on the whiskey here. It's not leaving really thick, viscous coating on the glass, but it is high proof, high air proof, 110.6. It is leaving a little bit of a film behind, but no big drips and runs on the side of the glass, really. Let's give it a nose. That maltiness comes through on the nose quite nicely. My mind actually jumps to like a Highland Scotch with a sherry finish, almost like a Glendronach. A lot of stemmy, grape, leather, that maltiness, and almost like a hint of like you're in a wood shop. Let's give it a try. That's an interesting transition through the palate there. It starts off, it hits you with bitter chocolates, roasted savory nuts, and a fair amount of heat. And then it transitions into more of that stemmy grape, the fruitiness. Fruity and malty, reminds me of like the kinds of dried fruits you'd get in a trail mix, you know? And the framing all around all of those flavors is that malt. Second sip really solidifies that for me. That initial flavor that hits you is really that bitter chocolate, roasted nuts, and a little bit of oaky heat on it. And then it transitions, and the finish is much more delicate with those fruits, but they're not like bright fruits. They're more those dark, rich flavors that you get. No doubt feeling the influence of those, the cognac and the Armagnac there for sure. You know, on the finish, it reminds me a lot of like a Sazerac, a good New Orleans cocktail. Between the absinthe and the Peychaud's bitters, you get a lot of similar dark flavors in there too. And obviously cognac is a big part of New Orleans culture too, so you can definitely feel the influence there. Kind of reminds me, it's certainly nowhere near Colorado where Old Elk is, but the flavors, they take me down to that southern New Orleans sort of a vibe. That's quite tasty. I think all in all, that's a really good, way to get yourself out there into the cigar batch, lineup of products that are out there right now. I think for me personally, I think of like Joseph Magnus. I think what they did a little bit better was bringing the fruits forward in the flavor profile. I think on the palate especially, you get a lot more of those fruit forward flavors on the Joseph Magnus cigar batch. And I really appreciate that. With this, you get those bitter chocolates, which are good, but I wish they were like intertwined. They were playful a little bit with those fruit flavors as well. So if I could be a little bit nitpicky, that's where I would be a little hypercritical, you know what I mean? All in all, quite tasty. Nice addition to that lineup. So if I were to give this a score on my rating scale, considering the price point, considering the flavor profiles that were advertised, and what went into this, I think that I would land at around a 7.6. I think that's really good. You have to sort of be nitpicky to pick it apart and have criticisms about it. But at that price point, it certainly has a lot of competition for sure. And that's another thing that we have to consider. Very good. If you have a chance to try pour of that, I'd recommend that you do so. If you're really into those bitter chocolates, the leather notes, and that's something that really vibes with you alongside, I think this actually drinks above its proof. Yesterday on the channel, we did Stag, which was like, was it 138? I mean, it was high. It was hot. But I think this one at 110 drinks hotter than Stag did. I think that is because of the balance of flavors in the Stag Junior. So if you vibe with that, you might really love this. Thanks again, Matt, for sharing. Appreciate you, brother. A couple of housekeeping things. First and foremost, thank you to the Patreon supporters for all of your love and support. It helps fund bottles that I get to review here on the channel, so really appreciate that. And really been appreciating the discourse that we've been having in the Discord group. So if you are interested in talking whiskey with people, you don't have to be a Patreon supporter. You can just be a viewer of the channel, and you can have access to our Discord group where we talk whiskey, make recommendations, share thoughts on things that we're drinking. You're welcome to be a part of that. Should be a link in the description. If you want to join the Patreon and be a part of our exclusive Patreon lounge there on Discord, you can do that as well. We've got 3 tiers in the Patreon. There's $5, $10, and $25 a month. So appreciate all that support. And that also gets you access to some special events like we are doing. Bottles just came in today, so I got to package up my samples for you guys, the Patreon supporters, and we'll send those out to you guys who signed up. And we'll do our virtual tasting together very soon. I'm really looking forward to that. Should be a lot of fun. Also, I got a really cool email this week from the distillery manager for one of the craft distilleries at the Beam, campus, the Jim Beam campus there in Kentucky. So inviting me to come down, tour the distillery, tour some warehouses, and do some private tasting. Should be a lot of fun. So while I'm down there, hopefully you can procure some bottles I can't typically get up here in Michigan as well. So I'll be sure to take pictures and videos so we can share some of our experiences here on the channel. Cheers! May you live richly and get better with age. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.